How many students? 32. We'll wait for another 2 minutes and then we can start. So today I'm going to discuss the Lapis Lazuli poem which I had left yesterday. And then I'll come to T.S. Eliot. And then we'll go to the modern poets. So tomorrow it is not possible for me to take class because it's not being adjusted. So what we can do is that we can extend beyond our 2 hours. Whatever is left, I'll try to wrap it up tonight only, right? So maybe after 2 hours, we have to take a break of 3 minutes, and then we can again continue so that I finish it today. Did any one of you go and see the question papers? Did any one of you go and see the question papers? Or no? Anyone? No one has visited the question papers? Yes? Yes or no? Anyone who has gone and seen the question papers or no? No one. I told you, just go and find out, see the question papers, see what type of questions are coming, so that is anyone, no one has seen.
Yes, ma'am. Gone
You
through
see.
it.
Hmm.
Mm,
What did you find, Rajveer?
Mrinalini, ma'am.
You are a Chimrinal. Tell me, what did you see?
Ma'am, actually, in each paper, we
Hmm.
have two questions for reference to context, where four questions they have given.
Hmm.
I mean, the four extracts of poems. We
Hmm.
have to answer two, and the remainings are essay type questions.
Hmm.
But I could find that some 2 to 3 years, in the gap of 2 to 3 years, they have given only RTCs. 10 RTCs with options they have given. Um, that's it I could find, ma'am.
But no, no, 10
Questions.
artists, but did you find the artist is familiar?
Um, yes, ma'am. Few RTCs, but the questions are a bit changed, but same answers come.
Hmm.
Check that.
So mostly you're finding from where? Metaphysical poets are you finding? Or you're finding from the Victorian or from the romantics?
Just gone through, ma'am. I didn't check all those things. Just was going through the questions. That's it.
Go through it very seriously because RTCs you have to be very careful how to write RTC. And
Okay,
let
ma'am.
me just today, within the 5 minutes, I'll tell you how you should write one RTC. Okay. So 39 students have already joined. I think we can start now. Hmm. Good. If you are given a question like a critical appreciation of a poem of your choice from the given syllabus, then you are very sure about a particular poem and get ready with that poem and even write on that poem. Maybe you can take WBH's Second Coming, maybe you can take Don's John Donne, or maybe you can take Coleridge, Kubla Khan, or you may take Robert Browning, Porphyro's Lover. Wherever you are confident, get fully prepared. On a particular, at least two poems, you get prepared, and you see these are the important poems that might come, or maybe The Wasteland, T.S. Eliot, mm, or maybe Second Coming, Selling to Byzantium, sorry. These are the important, landmark poems, you can say landmark poems. So if you are ready with at least two, if you are very, very well prepared with two, definitely you will get a question on that and which you can write. So one question is assured, and the other one is reference to the text, which you have to make out from which age it is and how to write. And then two more questions, maybe one short questions must be coming. So on short questions, you'll find what are this type of short questions coming, like a pre-Raphaelite brotherhood, it might come, or it may come a war poets, or it may come the nature in Wordsworth's poetry. No, something like that might come. So it will be about from the long you'll get the short. That is what. Hmm. Or you may get a question on prologue of Canterbury. So something like that you can get in short questions. So if you are very sure about two questions, one question you're preparing and the other one is reference to the text, which out of four you may have to do two. And I think if you are seeing those 4 years question papers together, just take the reference to that passage thing, just take that and see what type of passages coming in those 8 examinations. Mark the age from which it is coming, mark the age, and then find out the point, and you see whether they are being repeated or not. That also is another trend. You have to find out whether they are being repeated, and if they are being repeated, whether the June examination is repeated in the next June, or the June examination questions are not repeated in the January session. You can make out the trend. If you see the question paper, you can make out the trend. So when this reference to this passage explanation, if it comes, passage critical appreciation of passages, you have to be sure from who is the poet and from which age. So you can say that this particular passage is written by, composed by this Wordsworth say, or John Keats say, whoever it is, and it is belongs to this Elizabethan age or this Victorian age or Renaissance or whatever. Then this passage must have come maybe from the end part of the poem, or it might have come from the middle part of the poem, or it might be the introductory of the poem. Okay, you're not very sure. So if it is introductory, fine. If it is the end part, whatever it is, in the first paragraph of any passage writing, when you are with reference to the context when you're writing, you have to give the theme of the poem, that this poem is about this, where he described this. Okay, you'll have to first is the total the meaning of the poem. You condense it, and maybe in a small paragraph you write the meaning of the poem. That is the first thing. Then there's the second thing. The third thing is that you can say that as Wordsworth is wandering in nature and he recalls his childhood, then he goes back and he describes this scene. So this comes to the setting of that passage, because all on a sudden you cannot describe the passage. Has to be linked with the poem, linked with the age. So little about the age, little about the poet. Don't have to write a biography of the poet, but of the poet, that he is a nature poet or he is a metaphysical poet. And then you come to the context. The main that in this, for example, this flea is you and I and marriage. But then he said in this poem he describes about a mosquito or the flea, and in a unique way he describes how inside the body of the flea there is a union of the lovers. And then you say that he says that by the beloved, by killing the flea, she is committing a sacrilege, as she has killed 3 lives in it. So very beautifully done, describe this. Then you come to that particular passage where the thing is described. After that, at the same time, that while describing this, the poet uses, as he's a metaphysical poet, he is very popular for using the concept. And in this particular passage, he describes this or you describe this to a metaphor, or you describe this to a concept. The lines of the rhyme scheme of the poem is this. And if there is a meter used, there's a meter is used, and the lines are iambic pentameter. You have to write about the stylistic aspect of the poem. That is how you have to write when it comes reference. I mean, when you are writing a passage from any particular poem. You have any doubt? Ask me. We can finish this within 2 minutes. If you have any doubt, ask me, because second time I cannot repeat it, because today is the last class. Or you are fully understand what I have told you.
Excuse me, ma'am. This RTC question coming for 10 marks, as I remember. 10
No,
marks.
it may be
Yeah.
10
So
marks. It
about
may
two
be.
pages. About 2 pages.
Listen, don't go by page.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go by the content. You may
Yeah.
write all bullshit and go on writing 5 pages. You will not get any marks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not that making an answer lengthy gives you more marks. It may
Yeah.
be 2 passages, but if it is very meaningful, you get the same mark. But you have to know how to write it. That is more important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what to write.
Yes.
So I have given you the framework of how you attempt this, this when you are writing about passage, how you have to write it. Any
Okay.
question? We can
Thank
go
you.
on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, we have to write about the poet also.
Little about the poet, the age, not about the personal life of the poet, that he committed suicide or he was in love with this lady, or he was very. You have to write the poet in context of the age.
Birth year or death year.
No, death year, or birth year, or when he did his matriculation, when he did his graduation. These are not irrelevant. These are all irrelevant. You don't have to write all that. It may have been given in your guidebooks, but that's not the way you should write. You have to write more about the poet. What are the characteristics of the as a poet? To which age he belongs? Little about the age, and then the background of the poem. If you know how you wrote the poem, what is the context of the poem, then you come to the passage. You don't have to write where you are graduated from, how many wives he had. We are not interested in the biography part of it. You are interested to know the poet handling this poem, and from which age, and how the characteristics of the age are reflected in the poem, or what are the features of the poet, say as a romantic poet, or as a Victorian poet, or as a metaphysical poet, or as a 18th century poet, as you know. So you have to relate the poet to the age. Got it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
I have already explained, Prachi, what points to put in critical appreciation of a poem. I've been explaining that only till now. So we come to WBSL poem which was left, Lapis Lazuli. And it is one of the last poems of this WBS. And this poem is dedicated to a friend who presented him with a precious stone on his 70th birthday. 70th birthday. So he talks about, it is lapis lazuli is a type of gem. You know, it is a stone, it's not a stone, but a gem. And people put it in rings or make necklaces out of it. Lapis lazuli, it is blue in color. So he speaks about this large piece of stone and he meditates over it. He describes the importance of art, you know, when he talks of this lapis lazuli, and as it has been carved by some Chinese sculptor. He talks about the stone of the, I mean, the ring which has been, the stone with the gem which has been presented by his friend. So he elaborates on the role played by art that brings what? Happiness and joy. So I told you it is a gift, maybe carved by some Chinese sculptor, and it is it has a picture of a mountain with temples, trees, paths. That is the carving has been done on that, and the poet meditates over this stone and talks about art. And he says that art has an important role when the world is becoming hysterical, wars are taking place of no consequences. But this art is something which is beautiful, would remain beautiful forever. So he talks of serenity that brings joy. So in this chaotic environment where he's placed now, these years, he brings a contrast, and that description, that the paint, that sculpture that has been done on that particular stone, lapis lazuli, describing the trees, the temple, and maybe an ascetic ascent, trying to climb that mountain, all this is there. So he describes how different it is from the real world. So he begins the poem telling about the world, which is a very chaotic world, but and it is he begins it with a very negative tone, but gradually becomes very reflective, very complete, contemplative, and he talks about the war, loss of faith in the modern world. So he talks about two themes in lapis lazuli. One, first is he talks about the old civilization that has been wiped out, and the modern civilization which will also be wiped out. So this destruction of cities, because wars are happening, description of cities, it's a it's a theme. It has been described. It's a theme because it refers to the war, to the airplanes flying, that destroying cities. But it depicts how art can win over the tragedy of the modern environment. All forms of art, he says, can surpass the tragic experiences within the world, because art gives you joy. That is what he means to say. So it is in the form of a lyric, and he brings the imagery, beautiful imagery in the poem, where he describes how the Chinese people, because it is a Chinese culture, Chinese people receive happiness through music, how they present the joy, their the eye is glittering, they are gay, they are happy. And there is a man carved in that stone, a man. So there are people sitting under the tree, on sitting on the mountain. So it has been carved in that particular stone. So he imagines them to be sitting on the mountain and taking a deep look at the scenery in front of them. So they are just staring, enjoying nature. And the bird also, which is appearing on the carving, it depicts the bird, that is, which delineates a life of longevity. It is not unlike man. It is not engaged in wars. So it lives on forever. So this is something about the poem. He talks about the healing power of art. Then he refers to the Shakespearean tragedies of Hamlet, King Lear, And though the plays are pessimistic, he says, but still they depict life, the plays depict life, and it has a beauty in it, So Hamlet or the characters of Shakespeare enact the tragic roles in the modern world. And he talks of, he brings a difference between this world and the world of sculpture. He says that many civilizations have come and gone, they've fallen, and they are not forgotten also. So old civilizations have fallen due to the fight, due to the sword, and new ones have also come, the same thing happening to them. So one should not feel sorry if our civilization is also destroyed, because this is the nature of this society, of the world, you can say. But the beautiful sculptures that are made, they are destroyed, but they remain forever, because every time they appear, they are appreciated. They appear, they appreciated. It's not that they are gone forever. They might be forgotten, but again they reappear. So Yeats concludes in Lapis Lazuli by describing the carving in lapis lazuli of these two Chinese men and another standing behind them, and a long legged bird flying above them. So it describes a crack, it describes a water course or maybe an avalanche. So the poet there's also sees a rest house surrounded by plum trees, cherry bushes, and yet imagines the men climbing up the mountain, sitting, staring at what? At what is happening to human life. That is what perhaps they are staring at, the tragic scene of this world. So perhaps one of the men desires to hear the mournful melodies, and perhaps the other people, one of them tries to play the instrument. That is what the poet is imagining. But all are with glittering eyes, enjoying the tragic scene around them. So the world around them is tragic. It is a crumbling world, world infested with wars, where aeroplanes flying, things are crumbling. But in this particular lapis lazuli, the scene which has been described is something which is a picture of harmony, which gives you joy. And he says that this poet concludes this art form, this art which is depicted in the lapis lazuli, the stone, can keep people happy even in the midst of tragedy. Even in the midst of tragedy, people can remain happy, because that is the power of art. So same thing, Yeats also expresses in Selling to Byzantium, where he talks about the spiritual, the spirit, the gold, as if the spirit is um, crystallized in fire, and they are in the walls forever. Same thing also, you have a feeling of it when you read this Keats's poetry, when he talks about the world, but he talks about the nightingale, which gives the voice of the nightingale gives joy, or in the Ode in Aggression, where the art which has been described on the vase, that gives joy, because that is the beauty forever. So he talks about the beauty of art, and he contrasts this beauty, thus joy, with the tragic happening of the world, where it is full of wars, things are crumbling down. So he talks of that. So with this, Yeats is over, and we come to the modern poetry. So when we come to the modern poetry, what is more important, the towering figure is T.S. Eliot. Any question if you want to ask, you go and ask me. I'm just looking at the poem now. Give me just 1 minute. I have to go back to the poem. If you have any doubt, you can ask me so that simultaneously I can go on answering to whatever you can ask me. Or you don't have any doubt. Everything is clear for you. You don't have any doubt. So everything you understood. Am I correct? One of you respond. Why are you so very quiet?
Yes, ma'am. Understood.
You have understood. So you like the classes? You like British poetry?
Yes, ma'am.
Or
Very
no?
much.
Yes, ma'am.
You
Yes,
like
ma'am.
British poetry? Okay. Miru Nalini, you wanted to say something? I don't know
No,
why
ma'am.
laptop is going slow. Tell me.
No, ma'am.
No, so you are very clear about British poetry. So if I tell you that if you can take a class on British poetry, can you take a class? Can you explain it to your students? For example, I tell you, I give you that task that explain this to your youngsters. Can you explain or no? Or you're not confident? Are you confident that you can do it or no? Say something.
No, ma'am. We still have got lot to learn.
No, that
No, ma'am.
always have for the entire life you'll have that.
Yes, we can, but with some preparation.
Huh?
With some preparation, we can take
Poetry is
such a.
tough. Oh, poetry is not at all tough. Poetry is enjoyable. If you start enjoying a poem, you like it. So how can poetry be tough? No, poets are tough, not the poetry. Poets are tough.
Ma'am, there are so many thoughts, and to compile them into into 100 words or 300 words, that becomes a really tough task. There are so many understandings for each single line and connecting to the spirituality and humanity. So that makes it more tough.
So that is where your test is proved, no? The strength of whatever you have understood, how you have understood, and how you are expressing it within that limited time, within that mark. I mean that which has been that mark maybe the marks given 20 marks. How are you presenting that? So that is your that only shows the caliber of the poet, of the student, because if left to yourself, I go on telling you, explain me, go on explaining. There's no end to it. You go on explain. The entire day you can explain me. Even I can explain you for the entire day. But the difficulty comes when you are given a particular time frame, and in that time frame you have to do it. So give me a little time. I'm having a little problem with my laptop. Just give me some time. In the meantime, we can go on talking to each other, so that I get some time to see this. Okay. I don't know, some problem is there. So if you have any more questions, you can ask me in the meantime. So I'm there. I'm fixing it. I'm fixing my laptop, and also at the same time I can respond. Don't worry. Scan a file. So the technology at times creates a lot of problems. So literature is always not aligned with technology. Literature is a different world and technology is a different world. So if you are going to align technology with the literature, then there is a problem. There's always a problem because literature has no course how to go about it. It is totally, it goes its own way. But if you have to define it through a particular medium, then that becomes a problem. At times it's a problem. So just give me 1 minute. I'm trying my best to fix it up. I don't know. There's a little problem. Let me just switch off my video. I'll do it. Now what I do is, I'm not, I mean, my laptop is something behaving very funnily. So I am using another laptop. So in the meantime, I have to switch off my video. I just, my microphone would be one on. Okay. So after I finish a particular chapter, I can again come back to you, switch on my video, and then we can have a discussion.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
let us go to the next poem.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No, Duke, no. No, go. Cheese. Oof. So we are coming to this T.S. Eliot, Thomas Stearns Eliot, and he was famous modern poet. Not only a poet, he was a critic and he was also a dramatist. And he's famous. He is famous for a essay you had written, Tradition and Individual Talent. I think in your criticism paper you must be having this particular essay where
Yes.
he gives, yeah, where he says that tradition shapes the talent of a person. Without tradition nothing happens. So tradition is very important. So the importance of a tradition, importance of the past, the culture, everything is there. Then the shape of the individual or the shape of an artist, he's being shaped. So he's not that on his own he becomes an artist, but it is always through tradition, through the past. You get something and you learn something, and that is how your art is, your talent is shaped. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1948 for his poem The Wasteland. And though he was a modern, but he referred always to the myths, the classical myths also, and lot of mythology is there in his poems. So he's also considered as a classicist. He's a blending of both the classicist as well as the modern. And he writes in free verse. And what he describes is that he tries to translate the social reality of his age, the social reality, not the physical reality, what he sees, but he tries to uh, perceive that social reality through his consciousness. So he describes the modern world, which is a not a very regular, very harmonious world. And he describes the inner feelings of a modern man. So the language also of the modern world is a very complex language, because he says something but he means something else. So that is a modern predicament where nothing is very direct, nothing is very clear, nothing, there's no clarity, but everything is enveloped. Everything is very enveloped, and there's an inner reality. The inner reality is the outer reality, what you see, but the inner reality of the modern society is reflected by T.S. Eliot. And where what is important is the moral of the people, the ethics of the people, which has been badly affected, jeopardized, you can say, and the humanity, the values of humanity is at a loss. So there are a lot of allusions to the past, and he gives this describes this modern world by giving allusions, by referring to the past. There is allusion to Shakespeare, there's allusion to Aeneid, Virgil, you can say. There is allusion to Ovid, Metamorphoses. So you find a lot of allusions, lots of references. That makes his poem very complex. So he heavily depends on the symbols. Symbol of water is there, symbol of fire is there, symbol of broken images is there, symbol of jug is there, symbol of burning is there. All these are symbols through which he tries to describe the modern predicament. So the poem, this Wasteland, is in different sections. So we go by the first section, that is called the Burial of the Dead. Burial of the dead. I means we bury a person when one is dead. That's the first section of the poem. It has been in different sections there. So we first go to the first section, that the burial of the dead. And this is a Christian service. If anyone is a Christian, they know what is the burial. As we have, going taking the dead body to the burial ground in Hindu, or to the cemetery. Similarly, they also take the Anglican. They have a service, that the burial service. So it describes he goes back to the childhood. He refers, there is an autobiographical remembrance from the childhood of an aristocratic woman, where she claims that she is German and not Russian. And the woman, it talks, when he's referring to that I'm German, not Russian, he says that, he refers to that he's a member of this. Now he's a member of this defeated Austrian imperial family, because he's already settled here. So she is herself very confused, and she talks about the barren state of her current existence. She says that I read much of the night, and then I go south in the winter. You'll not understand anything. So it is she tells about a journey into a desert, and where the speaker will show something different. They will show a shadow at the morning behind you, a shadow at the evening, rising to meet you in the evening, and they will try to show you the fear. These are all the childhood reminiscences of the lady, where she's in the present but looks back and remembers about a girl, about a girl which, remember, she calls the hyacinth girl. Hyacinth is a type of flower. So about a hyacinth girl, and how she had seen that girl. So this you find is a totally having no connection. He talks about a burial, he talks about a lady, he talks about his vision, he talks about the past. So all in one platform. Then in this section, he talks about a tarot leader, tarot reading, when they read the cards, fortune cards. And then again he talks about the speaker, where he's working in London, and London is full of ghosts, populated by ghosts of the dead. And then he comes across a figure with whom he had once fought in a battle in World War. So the speaker asks the ghostly figure, and asks what about the fate of the corpse, what that has been put in the garden, what will happen to that corpse. Then the episode concludes with a famous line from Baudelaire, the classical poet again, where he talks about the sin, this commitment of sin. So this is the first part, the burial of the dead. It is totally, lot of images coming together. That there are figures of the past, of the present, a lady, a tarot reader, about a war, and reference to the Baudelaire. So all these are perceived by the poet. And when he talks of the modern world, wasteland, he says it's a wasteland. So in the second part of the poem, he talks a game of chess. First one, burial of the dead, and then is a game of chess. What is that? A game of chess is again, it talks of sterility, meaninglessness of life, a life without love, where two women, under two social circumstances and two different settings, talk of the relationship and refers to sex. The poet indicates the failure of sex relationship in the modern world, where sex is only for the sake of entertainment. It has lost its moral and social purpose. So the first life of the woman starts with a conversation with a male. Her name is Belladonna. She's sitting in a royal chair, looking at a polished throne. There is a reflection of the chair on the marble floor, and the designs, there are looking glass, everything is very beautifully decorated. There's a golden image of a cupid, and there are 7 candles burning in the chandelier, and so reflected in the mirror. And there's a double reflection on the shining table with the glitter of the jewels. So there's small bottles of ivory, colored glass, synthetic perfumes mixed with ointment. So this is the modern, you can setting of these two ladies sitting, and they are conversing, and it talks of a world of brilliance, but he hints at that there is a total failure of their relationship, where they it talks about the failure of love, failure of sex, failure of moral values. But outside it, everything is very glittering, everything is very polished, everything is very shining. So when you come to the third, there are 5 sections, in this poem. When you come to the third section, the fire sermon, again you'll find Eliot is describing the modern life, who have somehow lost the capacity to care about their fellow human beings. So the title Fire Sermon is borrowed from the sermon of Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha, where he says that the world is on fire. Fire of what? Burning with the fire of hatred, fire of infatuation, birth, old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, misery, grief, despair, all are these on fire. So this is burning up. The whole thing is lust also, which burns up the life. So one can conquer all this lust, you can say, infatuation and passion and all this. One can conquer if one is, you can say, purged or passes through the fire. So here he refers to a character, Tiresias. He's again a mythological character. The Tiresias, he refers to that character, and also refers to another symbol, that the river Thames. He describes the Thames River in the autumn season, and he says the river is now deserted because perhaps the summer parties are all over, the picnics of the summer, it's winter, it's all over. So now the river stands polluted with all the leftovers in the river. So it stands for the spiritual degeneration of the modern man. So as the protagonist stands on the river bank and hears the merry sound of London crowd, sounds of motor horns, sounds of girls calling to lovers, so it seems that as if this London city is an unreal city. It's not clean, it's not serene, it's not harmonious, where everything is very artificial. There's a lot of perversion. So people come to London to enjoy a sex relationship in a hotel. And he refers to a character called Mr. Eugenides, who has come to London for this. So the title, I told you that is taken from there's a longer section, and it is taken from this sermon of Buddha, fire, and he talks about the rats, the garbage, and then character. Then there is another character. The speaker is the one-eyed merchant. Also, he refers to, who is a character of the tarot pack, Madame Sosostris. So these two characters, Madame Sosostris, they go to a hotel as a meeting place for sex, and then the speaker then says that I'm like Tiresias, a figure from my he's a actually Tiresias is from classical mythology, who has both the male and the female features, having both. So he's an old man with wrinkled female breasts, is blind, but he can see into the future. So Tiresias, the speaker in the form of Tiresias, he talks about a young typist who's at home waiting for a lover, an arrogant clerk, and the woman allows the clerk to have physical relationship with her, and he lives victorious. Tiresias, the speaker, as Tiresias watches the whole thing. And after a lover's departure, you find the typist thing that at least, the encounter is over. It's fine. She's not bothered. And then in this section, there is also a refer to Thames, I told you, and a fisherman's bar is also described, where there are some moments of tranquility in the poem. He contrasts the tranquility. And here the Thames River is again, it's an influence of Spenser on him. And again, the scene shifts to Queen Elizabeth I, where she had an amorous encounter. She had a love encounter with the Earl of Leicester. So you see so many characters in the particular passage. Thames is there, Tiresias is there, Sosostris is there, and referring to Queen's love is also there. And it's all about happening of the modern world. Just a minute. अच्छा सुनो तो. So next section is death by water. After the fire sermon, we have to death by water. In this section, Eliot shows the significance of water as a means of purification and rebirth. And again, he refers to Shakespeare and the Tempest, and also to an Egyptian myth of the god of fertility. So you see the references that comes in his poem. And here he talks about Phlebas, a Phoenician sailor who has come for business, but ultimately dies on the sea. That means he wants to say that the moral is that all men are travelers, but they are subject to change, decay, and death. That is what he wants to say. So the sailor has forgotten this cry of the seagull, the roaring of the rough waves, and his business affairs, and ultimately he dies. He's sucked by the whirlpool of death. Just a minute. Just a minute. And this is finally his body rises and he falls in the waves, and ultimately he's sucked by the whirlpool of death. So it tells the story of this Phoenician sailor, and he has references to Shakespeare. Just a minute. Okay. And how he's sucked by death. So the sailor comes on a journey and he dies. So last is what the thunder said. This is the final section of the Wasteland, and it is in the same thread, it continues. And here he talks about the torchlight red on the sweaty faces, not the bright faces or beautiful faces, but the sweaty, full of sweat. So he perhaps indicates the church, it refers to the guards who come to take Christ away. So a garden is referred to, and it refers also to the torture and the execution, perhaps referring to Christ's death. He refers to the Phoenician killed by the water. He refers to Christ's death. And then he refers to birth and death. So life and death, you find, they're inextricably linked. And the borders are blurred at times. So one who was living is now dead. And one who is living now will be dying. So after talking of the water, again comes to the wasteland. And the speaker's first words imply that what has come before, fire, icy, silence, stony places, lamentations and prison, calamity, death and decline, these are all happenings and features of the modern society, of the modern world. So here is a place with only rocks, no water, neither sound nor silence. So the poet addresses, at the end of the poem, he addresses, who is the third who walks always beside you? Who is the third who walks always beside you? So there is an unidentified figure, apparently wrapped in a cloak. And then the speaker asks about talks about sound of lamentation. So, then at the end of this poem, there is again a reference to the Ganges River and the sound of thunder. In a chanting tone, the speaker repeats a series of almost fable-like verses about the thunder and the familiar image of a boat on a calm sea. And it is the picture of someone fishing. So there is a final chant-like closing also of this poem. So you find this is the wasteland where everything, the layers and layers of meanings, layers of interpretations, layers of characters, past coalescing with the present which has no meaning, and he refers to the characters of the past, but at the end of it he wants to say that everything finally dies, everything finally becomes sterile. We talk of rebirth, but perhaps there is not very sure whether there's a rebirth. So all these characters of this modern world he depicts, and at times he alludes to death and the rebirth of Christ, and he uses the death of Christ as a symbol of what? Of the death of religion in the modern world, because Christ was inflicted with pain. Christ was, tortured. So it is the symbol of, it refers to the death, because he was also representing a religion of the modern world. So it's symbol of death of the religion also in the modern world. So people no longer recognize religion. And this death brings a religious wasteland to the people in the Western civilization. He talks about this wasteland deprived, denied of religion. So in part 5, when he says, Eliot uses, when the thunder said, he says, Eliot uses the lack of water. There's no water to symbolize what? To symbolize death. So without water, there is no life. So death is a very important symbol of the wasteland. And if you say what is the another theme of wasteland, it is sexuality. It talks of the homosexuality of the modern world. And in part 3, where Mr. Eugenides is invited, he invites the speaker to a weekend with homosexuals. He talks of homosexuality. And he talks of homosexuality because homosexuality is not a very productive sexuality. So it doesn't reproduce. So it is something not very positive according to Eliot. So without reproduction, there's no life. So that is something which is happening in the wasteland. As there is no life, there's no water. And in part 2 also you'll find the two women at a bar. They're talking to each other, talking about the women's husband. Then the name of the husband is Albert. She says,
And she tells that fix your tooth.
yes,
She tells that fix your tooth.
yeah. So he says, if you do not please him sexually, the other woman said that she expects him to get it from someone else. So this is the futility, the falsity of the modern world, where the sexual relationship is also not very, in a very clear and a very harmonious way. There's loss of moral, talks of homosexuality, talks of husband playing false to a wife. And another he talks about is the religion, how the modern world is deprived of religion. So no longer religion is a driving force in the modern world. And he makes many biblical references in it also. And he says that religion in the past had answered many questions, guided people, guided life, guided the way to the church, and also taught how to truly live with God. But this modern civilization, Western civilization, is without religion. And this makes the people depressed, saddened. So when you have no religion, you have no guiding light. There's no guiding light. And the people are, confused. People don't know where they're heading to. So the road ahead is not clear. So people are there in hooded characters following. They don't know who are the ones following. So nothing is very clear. So now they can't recognize people. So without religion, without Christ, the people of the world, like Tiresias, are blind. And he also talks about meaninglessness of this world, which is a nihilistic world, nihilism. He says there is no afterlife to take you after life. So it is a negative viewpoint of the world he has given. And his use of figurative language, allusions, imagery in all the 5 parts speak of the world where there is no hope. It is a post-war world. It's a post-war world of modern decay, where the streets are all upside down, houses, buildings destroyed, people dying, and there's a total desolation. There is no hope of afterlife. So there is nothing there in the poem to show that there is some relief from this terrible phase the world is going through. So each speaker has something to say which is not very, very makes you very happy, because they talk of uh, deceit, they talk of rejection, they talk of depression, and they talk of a suffering. So in the final part of the poem, what does the thunder said, he explained that what we are and where we are, there's nothing for us at the end. Even if you wait, once we are gone, that is the end. There is no resurrection. So that is the theme of nihilism, because Christ is dead. So there is no question of any resurrection or afterlife where something positive will come, because he talks of the war which has torn this world, which has made this world so miserable in fragments. So sexuality, I told you, lust, he also is another theme of this poem. And water is also a very important symbol where it talks of cleansing, rebirth. But the Thames River is now polluted, he says. It is polluted by oil, by tar, by litter, by pollution. But the surrounding environment, it's all tainted. And the water is now potentially dangerous. So the wasteland also lacks water. So the possibility of rebirth is always through water. But if the water itself is contaminated, polluted, so there is how the question of rebirth would come. So here the Phoenician sailor who has come for business dies, is sucked, is dead in water, is sucked. So it is the dangerous side of the water. And the close of the poem, when finally the rain arrives in the wasteland, it washes away the mistake. But at the same time, it is not only simple rain, but the possibility of thunder and lightning is also there. So these two sides, rain is not the only, it's something, which gives you the relief, but at the same time, it's accompanied by thunder, by lightning. So you find the two sides, light and dark. The one is the life, and the other is the death. They are going together in this poem. So if in the beginning of the poem he talks of the wasteland, he talks about spring. Spring is usually, very admired by all the poets. Here he says, spring is the cruelest month, because he says what brings life also brings death. What brings life also brings death. So April stirs life. But what is this sort of life? Painful, repugnant, not a very...
Same as in Canterbury Tales.
No Canterbury Tales. It's not of any Canterbury Tales. It talks of the...
April, the mention of April month.
April, yeah, it refers to that. He says April, though it is a month of rebirth, but here the characters are actually, even if there's no rebirth for them, because this is the world where everything is painful, everything is dying. So as well, winter brings, so if you talk of winter again, there is no action. There is stillness. There is all stillness. People are inside the houses. So there is again a total lack of action. And if you talk of rain, the rain will come. But again, it is accompanied by thunder. So this is the world of the wasteland. This is the world where everyone is isolated. The emotions, the people, and even if they have the feelings, it's all a ruptured feeling they have. They don't talk to each other. They don't have the relationship. It's a very false relation there. Loss of values is there. So this is what he describes in the Wasteland. So generally, Wasteland comes as a critical appreciation,
In the
or
last
maybe
stanza,
the last.
he says Shanti, Shanti.
Yes, I
In the
can't
last
hear you.
stanza, he says Shanti, Shanti.
Shanti, Shanti, because he was very much inspired by the Hindu philosophy also, T.S. Eliot. Because I told you he was very fond of the past, the tradition. So he talks of that. So that is a regular feature in his poems that makes his poems very mystical also, because it's not totally. I just go through the last poem. Let me look at the last poem. Yeah, what did Thanda say? You see how he refers to the Italian, the London Bridge is falling down. Then Poises, Nel Fosso, Cheli, Afina. This is all not English. Then last he says, Datta Dadbham Damyata. Datta Dadbham Damyata.
Sanskrit word, Sanskrit word.
Yeah, it refers to the Sanskrit. Yeah, it refers to that. And then he ends with Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. But against this background, he describes this modern world. So let me again. So I told you the wasteland is divided into 5 sections. Variety of landscapes are there. One is the desert, the ocean, the city, the river, and it doesn't follow any single narrative or a consistent style. So there is a total shift from the present to the past to the future, locations, times, and he talks of multiple feelings. One at times one of disillusion, one of despair, and at the same time he talks of a hope also, but that hope again gives up. It is given up, and he refers to Ovid's Metamorphoses, he refers to Dante, he refers to Chaucer, he refers to Shakespeare. So there are a lot of references in his poems, and I told you that the names of the different sections you have to remember, like the Burial of the Dead, Game of Chase, Fire Sermon, Death by Water, What the Thunder Said, and so the meaning, I know it's very difficult. It is a difficult poem. In fact, till now also, if you ask me very frankly, I can say that I have not understood the entire meaning. So there's lot of references, lot of prophecies given in that poem. You have to know so many characters to understand this poem. So there's a Here's and the Gal, then the Arthurian tale is there, then the reference to Wagner is there, reference to Baudelaire is there, and it's a dramatic. At times the people are talking to themselves like a dramatic monologue. The women are talking, and at times there a partial rhyme scheme is there, the long rhymes are there. I mean, a lot, there's reference to even Joyce's Ulysses is also there. Lot of characters coming and going, lot of characters coming and going in this poem, and the recollections of the past. And then he refers to the golden bow of James Frazier, who he has not referred to. And Chaucer's contributors, as you rightly said, it refers to the month of April. So he talks of regeneration again, which is a painful thing, not the proper regeneration. So then he talks of a memory. The characters go back, memory. He talks of Christ, and he talks of a female figure, and he talks of Tiresias again, who is both a male and a female character and is blind, but he can prophesy, he can see. And he talks of the sea, and then he talks of the tarot reader, Madame Sosostris, who goes the reading, and talks of the drowning sailor. And Madame Sosostris is one, who predicts of death. And he talks about the unreal city of Baudelaire, like Paris, and he talks of Dante's hell, where the city is desolate, depopulated, inhabited only by ghosts. So this is about this poem. Okay, so you generally have a picture of this thing, and then we can continue with the next uh, poems, modern poets. Two modern poets I'm going to refer to.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Can we say this as a stream of consciousness style?
Yeah, he used many styles, it's not one style he used. He used symbolism, he used expressionism, and I told you the styles he has used are too many images, too many, it's all heaped on one after another. Symbols, if you ask of symbols, what not he has referred to? He has referred to everything. You refer to Homer, you refer to Dante, you refer to Shakespeare, you refer to Chaucer, all the past, all the classicists of the past, they have been referred to. And then he finally comes to a relief of saying that, yes, still against this world, you can say that the Santi, Santi, Santi comes to the Hindu philosophy of it, that everything finally ends with this. So, this is a wasteland, though it is beautiful, but it is a very difficult poem, and it really needs many classes to be taught. You cannot teach this thing only in one class, because when he talks of the Greek soldier, this Greek sailor Phlebas, Phoenician sailor, again he goes to the Egyptian myth. He talks of Shakespearean's Tempest. So he talks of the sweaty faces, only rocks, no water, no silence. Everyone is wearing a cloak. The characters, you cannot see the faces.
I
So,
I I
yes,
feel it like a modern art, something like modern art.
something like,
Modern art painting, modern art painting.
yeah, modern art. Modern life is like that only.
Yes, yes,
When you don't understand anything, you call it is modern, right?
yes. Like
I,
a Gurnike by
I'll just tell you a story where there was a big painter, and he was painting a beautiful painting of Lord Buddha, and the competition was for the next day, so he had to put his painting in that picture gallery, and he had done it in watercolors. So he had left the painting and gone somewhere out. In the meantime, his small little son, he sat on the painting and he sheeted over it. So when he sheeted over it, so mother, his wife, was very worried that what would happen, because next day is his painting. He had to put it in the exhibition, and in the meantime, this boy has done this job. So out of fear and out of confusion, what she did, she tried to bring a mop, and she tried to uh, try to clean the shit of that boy. As a result, what happened, the colors got interspersed, they all fused. So when this man came, he was very worried what to do. But as it is no time for him to do another painting, so he took the painting and he hung it, because everything was mixed up there. So he hung it upside down. So the name of the painting was Buddha, but he gave the name Kruddha, right? So everyone came, watched with wonder at that painting. They didn't understand anything out of it. They saw colors all mixed, and someone said, "Oh, a smell is also coming out of it. It is three-dimensional, where you get everything. You can see the colors and also a smell, because the boy had cheated over it. Naturally, a smell was coming, and he got the best hour for that painting. So when you don't understand anything, then that is called modern. That is the definition of modern, because you go to see a movie. At times, the movie, you expect that the movie is going to end, and suddenly you'll find the end has come. You think that it will in it there will be an ending of it, and suddenly you find there's an ending. So, oh, the ending has come. that means the film has ended. So this is modern. So when you don't understand anything, everything is complex. For example, if you go to visit a modern art gallery, to be very frank, I don't have any idea of this modern art, and I don't understand it, because if you don't understand anything, what can you comment about it? But people, say, oh, go gaga over, oh, such a beautiful painting. And I don't know what they understand about it, but they all praise, saying, oh, it's a beautiful painting, beautiful painting. How far they understood and what not they have understood, I mean, not understood and not understood, that I don't know. But they go on saying that. So this is the modern thing happening. So let us go to the other modern poets, because, tomorrow I'm not getting any time for you. So I thought I'll continue with you. At least I can touch the other poets, at least. So we can go to the other poets, the modern poets. One is Dylan Thomas. And I'm going to teach the famous poem of Dylan Thomas, The Fern Hill. The Fern Hill, Fernhill. So all this I'm going to give you notes, don't worry. So Dylan Thomas was lyrical and emotional. He wrote about lyrical and emotional poetry. He had a very turbulent personal life, and is known for his imaginative use of language and also his vivid imagery. In this poem, Fern Hill of Dylan Thomas, he talks about the childhood, the joys, the sorrows of childhood. At the same time, he refers to the passage of time. So you can say it's a beautiful modern poem, masterpiece, you can say. And the poet, you can take, it takes the readers to a poetic journey through the fern hill. In hills we'll find the ferns, the wild, not exactly grass, but the ferns are there at the rock. You'll find when you go to hill stations, as you in the winding roads, you'll find some green plants coming out of the hills. That is called the fern hills. So this, it talks about the childhood memories of Fern Hill at a particular place. They farm in Wales. So it is a celebration of his childhood innocence. Talks about the beauty of nature. Talks about the natural world, which is green, golden, where the sun is young. And everything about the farm is like a paradise. But at the same time, he also refers to the passage of time. Because the poet feels sad. He regrets that his childhood is gone forever. Because now he has grown up. And perhaps the inevitability of death will be there in front of him. One day he would die also. So he says, time, let me hell and climb. So he talks about the beauty of the past, beauty of the childhood, innocence childhood. And at the same time, he talks of the passage of time. He talks of death, which is waiting for everyone, for him perhaps. And it talks about the inevitability of aging. He talks of the idyllic days he spent on his family's farm. But as the poem progresses, he becomes aware of the fleeting nature of youth. Because youth is fleeting. Today you are young, tomorrow you'll be old, next day perhaps you'll die. So this is the cycle of life. So the green and golden fields represent the speaker's youth. But the black and the white cows presented in the poem symbolize the passage of time. So one is the world of innocence, the other is the world of experience. So, childhood is a time of innocence, wonder, happiness. Whereas, when you become an adult, adulthood is a time of loss. Loss. Loss of what? Of innocence. And what you experience is responsibility. Responsibility. So, there is a contrast in that poem. He says, once we were happy as the grass was green. But when you grow up, there is darkness, there is shadows. So these are the challenges of adulthood. So he talks about human experience. Human experience, he talks about exploration, how one journeys from the world of innocence, from a childhood where everything is green, radiant, golden, to a where world of responsibility, where death is inevitable for you, and the shadows are perhaps, if it is not a very bright world, but perhaps it is tinged with shadows and darkness. And these are the challenges of adulthood. So this is example of Dylan Thomas. Next who can come is Philip Larkins. He's another well-known poet of the 20th century, and he has got a very distinctive style. And he talks about society. He talks about the depiction of the human condition in the society, changing society. So there is a poem of Larkins, Toads. Toad, frog. The young frog is called a toad. Toad, toad. If you in the rainy season, you will find, how the toads, they go on making a noise. I mean, you'll find in some bushes or somewhere, you'll find the toads. So it's a unique animal poem that uses toad as a symbol of hard work and dedication. This poet speaks about the struggles one endures in day-to-day life, and one engages to work for monetary gains. But one thing that plagues him, that disturbs him, is the toad. So toad represents what? Toad represents, according to the poet, it represents the work, the pressure. It is
Overworked
always there.
employee.
Yes? Your voice is breaking, dear.
Overworked employee.
Huh. So in the next stanza, in the second stanza, you'll find it depicted the life of the poor, the struggling for food and shelter, jobless life. That then in the next, towards the, as the poem progresses, the speaker says that he's not brave enough. He's not brave enough to give up the job of the government. So he's like the toad, bearing everything, bearing the pressure. So he example is, the symbol of toad is the pressure, the labor. I mean, the one who is always representing the work, doesn't have a freedom of its own. So that is the toad he refers to. So he's not brave enough, he says. So the one, the toad is there in his body. It's as if like a toad, he's forced to do the job. So he's unable to change. So the main theme it reflects in this poem is that it talks about the conflict between work on one side and personal freedom on the other side. What the society expects and what the individual desires. What are the external forces that puts pressure on our lives? So this is the 9th stanza poem, and it is divided into 4 lines as quatrains. They do not have any specific rhyme scheme, and it's an animal poem, and where he compares himself, he's as a toad. Toad, he always hides pressure, it doesn't come out in the open, it doesn't have that you can say that courage to give up or to expose you. Whenever you have to search for a toad, you'll not find toads easily. They are always under a cover. That is what he wants to say, that I am like a toad. Then we come to Sylvia Plath. Sylvia Plath is another poet. She's a lady, and she's one of the admired poets of the 20th century. And she committed suicide at the age of 30. But her work had attracted attention of multitude of readers. And mostly her poems are autobiographical. And she had a troubled marriage with another poet, Ted Hughes, for which she suffered the mental anguish. And also she had a problem with her parents. She was a different, a very introvert character. So she writes a poem, Daddy. Daddy. So it was published posthumously. Sylvia Plath is originally American, settled in England, So it was published posthumously in 1965, as because she died early, as part of the collection called Ariel. And the poem was originally written a month after Plath has separated from her poet husband, Ted Hughes, and 4 months just before her death by suicide. Told from the perspective of a woman, she addresses her father, the memory of whom was like an oppressive power over her. And it talks about the speaker's struggle to break free of his influence, because that daddy was a very overpowering figure for Sylvia. So it is about the oppressive nature of the father-daughter relationship. It talks, he aspires for freedom, craves for freedom, he wants to come out of the captivity. Despite her father's death, she was always remembering the life under him and how he lived, and how she was very scared of him. That intensity is very, there is a great intensity of the poet's fear of his father. She says that even I'm afraid to breathe or sneeze before him. So it is about a tortured soul. It is about a tortured soul. So she allows the reader to feel her pain. And she writes about her father after his death. It's not an obituary, or you can say lamenting the loss. Rather, she is very frank. And she feels a sense of relief at his departure from her life. That means the father was too much for her. And she tells the reason. He says that my father died, but she thought of him as a god. But he was like a Nazi. Father was like a Nazi. So she says, I'm a girl. I loved my father, but my father was too much like a Nazi, very oppressive. And her mother was probably like a Jewish ladies were very subservient. They never used to raise their voice. Jewish ladies, very, very docile, like doormats. So she speaks about the parents, especially the father, and the relationship she had with her father. So I have touched these three poems, which are the important poems. I've talked about Yeats, I've talked about Eliot and the modern poets, and I think now nothing is left. I've touched mostly, and then I told you that I will send you. Yes, Bhavna Bhadoria has raised a hand. Okay, now I can see all of you because my laptop was not working, so I had to switch off this video and talk to you. Okay, there's 61 students. Now, dear, you can talk to me and you have any questions, you can ask me. Today is the last class with you. So I am make half an hour I'm giving you. Let's have a discussion.
Good evening, ma'am.
Tell me very frankly, Bhavna, which age you liked most?
Ma'am, modern age, definitely it was again good. But yes, of course, before that, the initial stage, I liked it better.
Chaucer?
Yeah.
Achha,
And
14th
ma'am,
century.
actually, yes. Ma'am, I had a doubt. Right now, we have done Toad. So there's one more poem, Toad Revisited. So is it the continuation of that, or is it something different?
Which one? Which one?
Ma'am, we have done Toad right now. So Toad Revisited is also there.
Toad. Which one is there?
Toad.
Toad,
And
yes.
then, yes, Toad Revisited is also there. So is it
Toad
the
Revisited is also
continuation?
there.
So is it the continuation of that, or it's the next poem?
No, 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 it's the next poem. I have only touched toads.
Okay. So I mean, like some references from Toads is taken in that.
Yes, toads, because it is a necessity. It talks about the value of work. Okay.
Okay.
Life of the humdrum life. He talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
So where nothing is very romantic, nothing is there's no life with there's life is without any surprise.
Okay.
He says walking around in the park should feel better than work. The lake, the sunshine, the grass to lie on. But the work doesn't allow you to do all that. So the blurred playground noises, not a bad place to be, yet it doesn't suit me because he has to go and do the work. Being one of the men you meet of an afternoon, pulsed, old, step takers, hair-eyed clerks with their jitters. So these are the characters. Waxed, fleshed out patients, vague from accidents, characters in long coats, deep in the litter baskets, all dodging the toad work, being stupid or weak. Think of being them, hearing the hours chime, watching the bread deliver, sun by clouds covered, children going home. Think of being them. You can only think of being them, but cannot become like them. Turning over the failures by some bed of lobelias, nowhere to go but indoors. No friend, empty chairs. No, give me my tray, my love haired secretary. My shall I keep the call, sir? What else can I answer? The typical office thing happening. When the lights come on at 4, at the end of another year, give me your arm, old toad. Help me down the cemetery road. Cemetery road is the death, referring to the death. So these are the characteristics of the modern world. Modern poems are all like that, about death, about the inevitability of aging, about the past which is you have left, about missing your past, meeting your childhood, nostalgia. There's no friendship. You are left to yourself. Life is very solitary. These are the features. If you say what is this modern poem, these are the characteristics. These are the characteristics of modern poem. So nothing is very congruous, nothing is very coherent, nothing, lots of images coalescing together, lots of ideas, interplaying, lots of references coming, but they are not linked with anything, linked with one another. There's no continuity that one character is coming and continuing, like in Chaucer's tale, one tells the tale, the other one comes and tells the tale. These are all linked characters. It's a story, a narrative. No, everything is disjointed. Everything is disjointed. Lines are short, lines are long, reference to the past, reference to the philosophy, reference to this, reference to that. So this is, till Yeats it is understandable, but after Yeats, modern poetry is totally the different sort of poetry. And nowadays modern poems are like prose. Lines are very regular, and it is as if you are telling a story. It's like prose nowadays. No rhyme scheme, no meter, no quatrain, no passages, nothing. So there is another sort of poem, if you have any idea. Do you know this haiku poem of Japan? Haiku.
Yes, yes,
Haiku.
yes,
I think it is
yes.
how many lines? It is written in very short form.
Three
Three
lines,
line.
three
Yeah,
lines.
very short.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So haiku poems are also very much popular. Of course, I had been to Japan, but I should have explored more about the haiku poems. But I just heard about them, and I read it as a form, but I have not gone deeply into the haiku poems. But they are very simple poems. There's nothing much about to understand in the haiku poems. And as Japanese people are simple, the poems are also very simple. So that is their society. So now next thing is that tomorrow again I'll send whatever I have to you, and in the meantime, just don't forget. Just go on. Very important, very important is that please go through the questions. Arrange the questions. See what are the type of long questions. Put it in one side of your one page. You put the long questions, and then the second is the short notes. What are the short notes? You put in another page the short note that is coming. The third, reference to the text, the passages, you put it in another thing. Then you have a fair idea. Oh, these are the type of long question. These are the type of short question. These are the compulsory question. This is going to come. Then accordingly, you prepare. So it is always 20, 20, 20, 20 mostly. So don't, as you say, madam, how many pages we have to write? Don't do all that mistake. Even if you write 5 pages, you will get the same 10. Even if you write 2 pages, you will get the same 10. But the main thing is the quality of your answer, the approach, the understanding part of it, the style part of it, the characters to be spelled correctly, and about how you have understood the poet, everything about it. So I try to make it understandable to you, because always I don't never go to the poet directly. I always go to the age. So when you understand the age and you understand the poet, I told you. Because you don't understand the age, the features of the age, what happened in during that time, it is very difficult if I tell you directly about T.S. Eliot. You'll not understand it. Because he's the part, he belongs to the modern world. So his thinking would be different. His concepts would be different. And then you understand, you try to understand what is called these different type of movements like expressionism, realism, symbolism, imagism. You try to understand. If once you understand these terms, then there is a clarity. And also you try to understand the technical literary devices, like what is called a metonymy, what is called a simile, what is called an irony, what is called image, what is called this transferred epithet, what is called oxymoron. These are the different literary, uh, you can say, the devices the poet uses. What is called wit, what is called conceit, what is called parallelism, right? And then you try to understand the nature of the rhyme scheme, the feet used, whether these figures of speech, whether what is the rhyme scheme, whether it is the lines are rhyming, if at all rhyming, what is the rhyme scheme, a b c d c d e, or something else. And if you're in passages, if you are describing passages, you say in the first passage it happens, like the second passage it happens like this. So when you're discussing the poem, you go like that. Okay. Anything else you want to ask? Acha, please tell about RTC once again. So what is RTC? Reference to the context. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
madam.
That means there are three words. One is reference, another is to, and third is context. So these three things to be need to be explained. For example, I just give you a small passage of said T.S. Eliot. Okay, Death by Water. Just some lines from that. So you say that this is from the poem. This is written by T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot was a modern poet. What is little modern age? In 2-3 lines. Now, what is modern poetry? So, modern poetry talks about the predicament of human life. So, and T.S. Eliot is one of the um, grand poets of the modern age. And in this particular poem, in the, these lines are from the poem Westland. The Westland is divided into, is a long poem divided into 5 sections, and it talks about Westland in general, where he talks about the human predicament. He talks about the sterility of life, where nothing happens, and this is the world of the Westland, where sterile images grow. There is no fertility, and then you say these particular lines are from this section of the poem Death by Water, where what is the main theme of the death of by water? You just refer to that in 2-3 lines. Then in these lines you come to this. The poet has given a reference to this, saying this, and after that you can say that in this passage the poet has beautifully employed or used simile, used image to explain the, he refers to the Phoenician sailor, and he refers to the concept of birth and rebirth, which is a Christian image. All this you can write, writing about the style. So it should all go together. First is the background, because the context, it is always the context, remember. So from where it has come, you have to remember that T.S. Eliot is a modern poet belonging to the modern age, modern poetry. So little about that. Then come to the poem, because these lines are taken from that poem. So you have to give a little overview of the poem, maybe in another 3 to 4 lines, talk about the poem general. Then you particularly locate from where you the line is. You find that this is from this stanza, from this section, Death by Water, where the poet talks about the about the death, and there is no question of rebirth once again. This is the death of religion. He talks about the death of religion, and give the example of the Phoenician sailor who is sucked by river Thames, because river Thames is a polluted river. All this you can say. Then you can come, last part, you can talk about the style of the poem. What all, how the poet has developed these lines to the image, and as it's a modern poet, it has no, it is written in free verse, and the lines are very irregular, but lot of allusions are there, lot of images are there, lot of symbols are there. Okay, all this you can write. Is it something clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
You try writing. You can, I have told you, but you have to practice makes a man perfect. You have to practice. Try writing one, and you read it yourself, whether it is okay or not. Find out. Then you find out what is lacking there.
Ma'am, this is your last class?
Yeah, this is my last class. I'm not given any more class because the schedule, they said it will be disturbed. So I told, okay, this is my last class. So they let you have to finish everything. So I thought I'll finish everything. I cannot let it half done. That is the
Okay.
reason I had to go very fast, because if I go slow, I cannot complete. So I thought I'll wrap the entire thing and then leave little time to for you to people to interact with me, or because after this you'll not see my figure anymore. Neither I can see you people also. But I want to get the feedback from you. What was like, how was my class? How did you understand? Was your understanding okay? How did you like it? Whether it is clear to you? Whether you had any doubt? Anything? Let me get your response from you. That then I can know how far you have understood. You can go one by one also. Maybe 51 others.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Jaita Naik.
Uh,
No, no, you are Param. Param.
yes, yes,
Param.
yes.
Param.
In the end,
You're from Kerala, you said, no?
yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, huh.
In the end, this wasteland, it ends in a positive way, right?
Hmm.
Because of Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I feel it is ending in a positive
Yeah,
note.
yeah, because it talks about the Hindi philosophy. Because you can hear from the thunder, and that is what he said, Santi, Santi, Santi. Against all these happenings, he ends with the word Santi, Santi, Santi. So it is taken here, taken the lines from Hindu, in Hindu philosophy.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, so it was Small Shri, very well explained, ma'am. Thank you. Great experience. Oh, it makes me very happy if you are well understood. That will make me happy. And if you write well in the exam, I'll still feel better. And at times I am the evaluator. I don't know, but who will be the one to I'll get? I don't know. So at times I'm getting copies also. So what about other classes? Are they going on?
Yes, ma'am, they are going on.
There, that also it is understandable to you. No problem.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What all classes are going on?
MEG-1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Acha, American literature is there? No.
Ma'am, I have not opted for it.
Acha, you have not. You have opted for what?
Ma'am, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, I don't understand. 245. You should name me the thing only. No, 245.
MEG,
British
MEG.
novel.
MEG. What are the
British
titles of
novel.
MEG?
British
Novels.
novel.
Or
British
English
British
novels.
drama. British
Okay.
drama.
Drama.
Aspects of language.
Okay.
Literary criticism.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, I'm very happy the way you liked my egg because I'm getting the compliments from you. And you say that your sessions are wonderful. I don't know whether you mean it or you just say it. I don't know. But I'm happy that your response was
We
good.
mean it, ma'am.
You mean it. Okay. I'm very happy.
And I would like
We
to add
mean
to
it,
that,
ma'am.
ma'am, the way you have taken us from one age to the other has really built the interest in that age. So we would like to go into depth of it. So thank you so much for
Okay,
evoking that
then.
interest.
Okay, most welcome. I receive it all with a very happy note. And I bless you that you do all well in your examinations. Come out successful. Be good teachers, be good civil servants. Whatever you aspire for, get in life. Whatever you desire, it should be from inner. You should not be forced to do anything.
Ma'am, thank you for the wonderful
Yeah.
sessions.
And,
Thank
and
you very much,
one more
ma'am.
thing I would like to say, that after you've done, after, because one thing which I don't know, because I am going through interviews and all, though the students doing very well from the distance, but distance is something which is like a some sort of stigma attached. Oh, he's from distance. Oh, he's done from open. So that is I don't know, even if the students do well, the far better even from the conventional sort of thing, but still, when there's an, for example, there's an interview, someone coming from a direct college and someone going through distance. Oh, someone coming from distance, how far he has understood, god knows. That is the general view of people. Okay, but I don't make think any differences there, because I also have seen the conventional colleges, and my years with distance education is like for 2 decades. But some students are really very brilliant, and I really praise the scholars, the students, because without a direct teacher, when they are reading, doing the self reading and trying to understand, then it is a very tough job, because there is no hand holding for them. There is no teacher directly talking to them, communicating with them, meeting them every day to say, oh, this has happened, tell me. But you are left to yourself. And you are left to yourself. Perhaps you may be getting the guidance, may not be getting the guidance at home. How is the atmosphere at your home? But still you're struggling and doing it, trying to understand. So that makes you very praiseworthy. I really, I'm really, full of praise for the distant learners. And for whatever reason, they could not.
Ma'am, thank you. Ma'am, counselors like you also help so much. Uh, I mean, guide us so much. We are really thankful to you guys.
Yeah, because a teacher should not be a class taker only. A teacher is one who tries to understand the students more like a counselor, giving advice, giving some tips, giving a real practical tips, helping him so that he can find steer through and go ahead. So if I just take my class and say, oh, over, whether you understand or not, I'm not bothered, my class is over, let me go. So that should not be the attitude of the teacher. I will always think, oh, whatever I have taught, whether they got it, can they really do that in examination, can you reflect that in examination, can you reproduce that in the examination, how far they have understood. Oh, perhaps I could not do justice because of the time, because of the limitation of the schedule and all this, because it troubles us also, it troubles me also. But there's no way out. There's no way out because I'm not directly meeting you, neither there's a chance of meeting you. But only I remember you as students that you all responded well, and I've tried honestly to teach you as far as my time and my knowledge has helped me. Okay, I'm very happy that your teaching style is totally different from other teachers. Okay, I love to hear the compliments when the student, because that is the only reward a teacher gets if the students are happy. That is the maximum satisfaction a teacher gets, when the students receive everything from the teacher. Okay, so wish you good luck. Wish you best of luck for examination. Do well, and yeah, and I will definitely send the notes to you. To promise that to that mail ID I'll send,
Yes, ma'am.
and you
Yes, ma'am.
please circulate it amongst yourself. And if there is some genuine problem, my
Yes,
mail
ma'am.
ID is there. If you're
Yes,
really
ma'am.
troubled, if you have any trouble and you need some help, definitely you can mail me. But not for any flippant things, asking this, that. No, that has to be a serious thing. If you have any problem, definitely you can help me. I can ask me, I can guide you. Okay. So we
Thank you
can.
so much,
Why?
ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye bye. Acha, Sadhana, please
Thank you very
continue.
much, ma'am.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. In your debt forever.
Yeah,
Bye
yeah.
Thank
bye.
you. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much,
much,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
okay. Then
Thank you so
okay.
Thank you
much,
so
All
ma'am.
of
much,
you.
ma'am.
Okay. Thank all of you. I thank all of you. You're the patient listeners, and you tried your best
Thank
to
you, ma'am.
understand.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Okay then. Okay.
Thank you so much,
Bye. Then
ma'am.
we can. Okay. Good night. Bye.
Good night, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
हाँ यार लंबे वाली